Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We're really excited to bring you this content virtually, but really sad that we couldn't be joining you in Phoenix to experience it all together. But what a great forum for us to all learn a lot about out of home and some of the brands that are making a big difference for our channel and some of the brands who our channel is making a big difference for. Super excited to be joined by Jill Cody today of Adams Outdoor. Jill has been in the outdoor industry or the out of home industry for 18 years. She is currently the Chief Growth Officer for Adams Outdoor, and she's based in Indianapolis. Thanks so much for joining us, Jill.
Thank you, Kim, for that intro, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this conversation today. For myself, my love affair with Dunkin started early on in my career. I had just started in local sales for Adams in Charlotte, and I was fortunate enough to work on the Dunkin account. And at 24, 25 years old, how exciting to be able to work on a pretty big, iconic brand like Dunkin, number one. But number two, I loved it because I got to see how they approached our medium. And I got to kind of be influenced by their creative approach and, producing really good outdoor creative and their messaging and just their entire utilization of our medium. And in turn, how that translated into helping the operators that I was working with drive ROI for their business. And all of that just helped me build such a big belief in what it is that we do as an industry and what we represent. So I'm just kind of geeked out to be a part of this conversation today. So before we jump into it, let me introduce who we have on the call. We've got Keith Lusby, who is the VP of Media for Dunkin. And prior to joining Dunkin 2 years ago, Keith spent 2 decades in the agency side of the business in media and communications planning roles. So just very good perspective coming from Keith today. We also have Kristi Strickland, who is the Director of Field Marketing for the Southeast region. And Kristi has spent her whole career in the QSR category. She started out on the agency side herself and then moved into field marketing, working with Hardee's and Popeyes and Morrison's before joining the Dunkin team. So excited to have her here as well. And then also we wanted to make sure we had a very well-rounded kind of perspective coming from the Dunkin approach to media and how they look at our medium and really just to kind of get into their thinking. And so we wanted to have representation from the agency side. So I'm excited to say we've got Liam O'Neill, who is the Executive Vice President at Publicis on the Dunkin account. And she's run lead on the account, the Dunkin account with Publicis for the last 2 years, but she's been with the agency for 15 and she's been in media for 20. So again, we're really fortunate today to have such great experience kind of all around. And with that being said, our moderator today is Gale Bonnell, who is our Director of Business Development at Adams Outdoor. And Gale comes to us today with over 30 years of experience in the out-of-home industry. And I tell you, anyone that has met Gale will absolutely agree with me that you don't find too many people that love what we do as much as Gale Bonnell does. So excited to have her moderate for us today. So before I pass it over to her, I just wanted to give a couple of highlights to what's been going on in Dunkin over the last couple of years because they've been pretty busy with Keith at the helm. They brought to market their espresso platform. They also launched their morning value platform, which they call Go-Tos. They were named by QSR Magazine in 2018 as the most transformational brand of the year. And then most recently, last year, they finished the year in sales strong enough to set a benchmark of the strongest sales growth in 5 years. So lots of good things going on there that are going to lend themselves to pretty good conversation today. So with that being said, I will say thank you to all participating and to all listening in. And Gale, I'll let you take it from here.
Good to be here with the panel. So Kristi, let's start with you. Can you paint a picture of the state of affairs in the QSR category and specifically in your sector of the category, both pre and current COVID-19?
Sure. Thanks, Gale. First, I did want to say thanks, a big thanks to Kim and Geopath for this opportunity. I hate we couldn't be together in Phoenix for your conference. I was really looking forward to that, but excited to have this discussion today. There's certainly a ton to talk about on the marketing front as we navigate these unprecedented times and plan for that new normal. So Gail, back to your question, the QSR segment and Dunkin were having one of the best quarters in a long time prior to this crisis. Most brands announced their Q1 earnings last week, so I'm sure you've seen some of the strong results being reported pre-COVID, but that momentum quickly slowed as things shut down. And a big piece of how we determined what to do first was monitoring consumer sentiment and behavior. And that's something we do every week at the brand. So luckily we had that monitoring in place and we could quickly react to what we were seeing. We knew we had to pivot from our brand building and traffic driving messages to messages that address the anxious consumer mindset and how we could best serve them during this crisis. In those initial weeks, it was mostly about informing customers that we were open. Luckily, over 50% of our stores are drive-through, so that allowed us to be open in many of our communities. But we needed to communicate that and also what our franchisees were doing to keep their restaurants safe for customers to visit, as well as their employees, keeping their employees safe. So that was a big part of that initial messaging. And then we increased our messaging around contactless payment. And that's through our app, curbside, and delivery. And I will say, out of home was a key medium in many of our markets to get this message out. Our partners were great at helping us quickly make the switch and flex as things changed so rapidly. And as you know well, Gail, this is not new. Where in the past, we may have needed to make a quick change because of a competitive response or maybe a product change out. And Adams, along with all of our out-of-home partners, have always been so great to help us address that business need in the moment. And I think that ability to be flexible and nimble will definitely be a part of how we operate in the new normal. So yeah, I mean, that's really how we reacted in those early weeks. And it's hard to believe it's been 6+ weeks now.
So what are you most proud of in Dunkin's response?
I would definitely say our franchisees and how they immediately jumped into what we're calling random acts of kindness, providing donuts and coffee to hospitals and food banks, making masks in lobbies, donating meals to families whose kids were out of school. Just endless stories, endless efforts across the entire system and the nation where Dunkin, local owners, were out there in the communities helping as much as they possibly could. And that continues to happen. We're still getting a lot of stories, seeing a lot of local media, social media rather, shout outs to franchisees, thanking them for taking care of the need in the communities. So seeing all that, we decided to create a campaign to celebrate all that great work. And we call that our Heroes campaign. And I have some creative I wanted to share with you as we kick this off. We have 2 creative executions for out of home, and then we have our 15-second spot.
Let's raise a cup to those who donate their time, who go from making coffee to making masks, and turn their store into so much more. From all of us at Dunkin to all the heroes keeping everyone running, we thank you.
And again, big thanks to all of our media partners helping us quickly pivot and get these messages out. It's just been, we couldn't have done it without you, and we really appreciate the partnership.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you that this, your response, Dunkin's response to COVID has just absolutely been phenomenal. I know living here in Charlotte, North Carolina, your presence in the marketplace and what y'all are doing with the local hospitals has been absolutely spectacular. And I know, our market, our city really appreciates y'all's response to honoring the heroes that are on the front line. Keith, if we can maybe talk a little bit now about Dunkin's approach to media. I was hoping maybe you could provide a bigger picture view of how Dunkin plans for media and the role that out-of-home plays in that media mix. And if you could speak to it both on a national level as well as a local level, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gail. I think, the way you mentioned very critically, and Kristi brought up the way our system works as we're national brand, but locally owned and operated. So we very much want to honor the efficiency and effectiveness of certain national media channels, but we also, sort of slug it out block by block on a local level. So managing the mix is very important to us to get right, to leverage, getting people into our restaurants, which is a critical battle in even good times and even more important now. The way, strategically, I don't think I'm saying anything that anybody on this call or watching this wouldn't know already, but the idea of following consumer trends and understanding when and where consumers are most receptive and open to a message about where we can get some differentiation, where we can get some consideration, when people can either think about us in a new light, either through products, or think about us in a new light through the offering, or the good, in this case, the good that we do in the community, and wanting to be a part of a brand like that. That's where we look to put our messages, and that's where we find we get the best value. One of the things we've done to really optimize, if you will, to use sort of a media dork term, one of the things we've done to optimize is we really want to stop looking at metrics of, people seeing ads, and we want to move to metrics of actions off of those ads. So we have done everything in our power, and mainly through our partnership with Publicis Media, to measure the return we get on investment. And we measure that return in traffic to the restaurants. And not only do we look at the traffic to the restaurant, we look at the incremental traffic. So we model out when someone's giving us a new trip or an extra trip versus our competition. That's really important to us. And that's not just measuring digital media and e-commerce. That's measuring all aspects of our media channel. And that is one of the main reasons I credit with our ability to drive our business results over the last 18 months. Great product, great offering, but also really strategic media placement.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. That incremental trip has really resonated with me in understanding your business and what y'all's goals and objectives are. So when you're planning your media, do you think about messaging first, or do you think about the media that you're going to use and let the messaging follow that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting mix of both. And I would say it really is art and science. There's a lot of science that goes into understanding the consumers we want to reach. We're very scientific about getting down to the best customer we can reach, well beyond any simplistic demographics. And that's very much science-based, but there's also an art to it as far as what is going to compel someone into action, as opposed to just having the message kind of wash over them like a small wave in the ocean, if you will. So it's a little bit of both. And I think we definitely think about the media channels we need to be in, and we work in collaboration with our partners, both on the agency side and also internally, to think about what's the best message or particularly call to action in a particular media type we have to think about. Out of home plays a certain role for us in our media mix in very traditional ways, in the sense of we want to drive a trip, and sometimes that means emphasizing an exit number of where they can find the store. But other times that means a value offer because we have a product we're competing against one of another QSR, and that area is penetrated by that competitor. So we want to actually put the offer up there. So there's a little bit of, like I said, art and science of we follow the consumer, we think about the action we're trying to create. It's always trip to the restaurant, but it's not always a straightforward trip. Sometimes people want to know, well, what value program do you have? What convenient ways of ordering do you have? Do you have a drive-through? There's things that people work into their decision-making process that we need to think about, okay, what media best delivers that consumer need state?
All right, so really it's the action of the consumer that you're following more than the messaging or the media. Yeah.
But again, there's some tried and true principles, and we really take great pride in understanding media landscape, particularly out of home. And it's always been such a critical part of our media mix to drive traffic to the restaurant. And that is not changing, that as much as changes in the media landscape, the ability for out of home to drive visits is still critically important to us. But what we need to say, how we need to use it, that changes a little bit. But we take great pride in being an advertiser that you all could be proud of seeing on a billboard, because we're not going to put 12-inch type up there with 400 words when someone's going 70 miles an hour down a highway. we definitely think about the landscape and what we're going to look like and add to the landscape, not take away from it.
And Gail, I'll add to that. It's also day parting plays a big part of that for us as well. Or out of home has actually been one of those go-to mediums for day parting, where we may have a new product message for the morning that we would want to run before 11 a.m. But then switching to that afternoon message at 11 or even 1 o'clock in the afternoon to make sure that we have that traffic driving afternoon message is how we've trafficked a lot of our messaging with our out-of-home partners. So day parting is a big piece of that, and that's where that digital out-of-home is so beneficial.
Yeah, and I would like to point out too, day parting. Kristi missed one aspect. For myself here, based in Boston, the thing we love about the digital out-of-home is we have offers that we put into play when our teams around here win championships, and digital out-of-homes allows us to put that up in real time. So we love the ability for out-of-home to support all the wonderful teams and winning that we have up here in Boston as well.
Oh gosh. Yeah, well, the Southeast is going to hopefully benefit from some of that New England heritage down in Tampa this year. But and the other piece, speaking of New England, is weather. Or even today here in the Carolinas, it's so cool. And where we may have planned an iced coffee message, for instance, on a day like today, with the cool morning, we would have maybe been able to quickly switch over to a hot coffee message. So that's also the benefit we see with our out-of-home, digital out-of-home.
And if I may just add on the media and the message, I think one of the beauties of working on Dunkin is the kitchen table, which is the affectionate term that Dunkin calls all of the agencies that work on behalf of them for marketing. And I think we have a great process of collaboration, of understanding, to Keith's point, understanding the consumer and what action do we want them to take, and working with our partners, understanding the audience, sharing that information, figuring out, what that communication strategy can be, as well as the media channels. Really, that collaboration really helps us deliver the best message and marketing for Dunkin.
Can you speak about any consumer or media trends the agency has seen and how out-of-home might be leveraged against those trends?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest trends that we've seen that has impacted the out-of-home industry is really the adoption and utilization of mobile devices. I think the fact that, I worked on Verizon ages ago, and we were just trying to move from flip phones to smartphones, and now everybody has at least 2.2 devices in their hands at all time. And really that connection to out of home and being able to utilize that data that's with us everywhere has really changed the way we think about out of home and how we can plan against it and invest around it. That technology has been an advantage over the past, probably decades, but really transactionally over the past few years. And the platforms that our partners provide so that we can understand migration patterns that is from the data from the wireless carriers or the OEMs or just mobile apps, as well as just better understanding as to who our consumers are, where they go, how they act, where they go pre or post a purchase to a QSR, really allows us to have so much a richer understanding of that audience so that we can get really specific with our out of home, as well as also have that flexibility that Kristi spoke to and that nimbleness so that we can do a lot more day parting, weather triggering, winning championships in Boston. But just really that flexibility and smarter audience decision-making and tactical channels.
So as an industry, we have certainly grown and developed our abilities to provide more audience-based information, both to our advertisers and our agency partners. How does this help to further substantiate the outdoor medium?
Yeah, and I think it's exactly what Keith had brought up earlier. Our measurement has been a key to success for our partnership with Dunkin. And the fact that we're able to, with our out of home, see the incremental store visits that it's able to provide really has substantiated the power behind out of home in general. I think, a lot of us, we went through the decades of experience. It was really in the beginning about just driving awareness, and, out of home provides that awareness, and we're not going to put 12-point font up on a billboard, but now it's really like we can see who we're driving in and have the flexibility. Like, our partners have allowed us to have the flexibility to move across digital channels and tactics, or even, static channels, as a way to find those audience segments and optimize our campaigns in ways that, we didn't think was possible, or I didn't think was possible potentially when I first started out in this industry. So it's really been a great evolution to really show how out of home drives business results.
Kristi, you have any other comments that you'd like to share with us regarding our audience delivery and what we understand about people who are going by our billboards?
Yeah, no, it is absolutely so wonderful to see all of these tools now that we have to really measure that. It allows us to make much smarter decisions. Every dollar counts more than ever in our media mix and how we plan. So making sure that we do spend those effectively, efficiently to get the highest ROI is so important. So I'm so thankful for the tools that Geopath has put forth and what we're constantly getting from our partners on it's those eyeballs and that reach and frequency that we need from this medium. So it's absolutely critical in us making our media decisions and how we plan, on a quarterly basis, even an annual basis.
So really to sort of wrap this all up, I'm going to throw this question out to everyone. What would you like to see from the out-of-home industry to help with your marketing and growth objectives? It's important to us. We so value the relationship with Dunkin, and I think the best direction that we can get as an industry really comes from our clients and our agency partners. So I'm interested in what y'all all think about that idea and what y'all could like to see from us.
Yeah, just kind of jump on that. That's just like a tremendous offer, Gale. It's just basically open ask, what can we do for you? Thank you so much. No, I think, I'd be remiss if I didn't quickly point out that, what Kristi said before. I think, out of home is a critical traffic driving media for us, and that continues and will continue even moving forward. As we make adjustments to our media mix, we'll be strong with out of home through the remainder of the year for that reason, to drive that traffic. And we need your continued support of the already wonderful things that you do for us. I think where we look to evolve, we mentioned about our ability to measure traffic to our restaurants, and there's a lot of technical infrastructure to that, to be able to move beyond a simple people are outside, a showing, it's opportunity to see. We really want to start geolocating where the boards are versus where our stores are. We make the right picks that way. And then we can also measure connecting exposure to a board to one of those 2.2 mobile devices that Leah mentioned, and actually be able to track and monitor and be able to understand the value that we're getting from every media, and out of home falls into that. And the second piece, real quickly, I'll touch on, and we mentioned it before, is, I think all media channels having the digital aspect brought to it. And in this case, the ability, I have to say, I was a little bit early on when boards would switch to be digital boards, I had a little bit of a conflict about that, because one of the things I always loved and understood about out of home is just, I'm always there, and I would buy this massive 30 sheet poster, and it was lit at night, and it was, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, I was there. And then you say, oh, now I'm sharing it. But I realize now the trade-off of that sharing far outweighs anything a negative, because as Kristi mentioned, I can day part, I can weatherproof, I can push in offers, and knowing what we know now, the ability to be nimble and change and do messages that we need in the moment far outweighs any other benefit. And I think, working with that ability to have digital out of home will actually help accelerate our investment in that area.
William, can you
Yeah.
maybe share a few things on your thoughts on our industry and what we can do to enhance our relationships and our go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the technological advances that you guys have provided have been fantastic. And I would continue to push, especially with our partners at Geopath, understanding the media partners that you've worked with, as well as all of the data that you have to share about, the profile sets that are built beyond just demo and households, but behavioral, so that we can understand, more about the channel and how we can deliver better results for our clients, especially as we, a new normal sets in and routines start to kick in. It's really great for us to see, how this world is going to shape up and how out of home has that part in it.
And Kristi, any further thoughts? My good friend Kristi.
Yeah. No, I think you guys are always bringing innovation, innovative ideas, both from the planning standpoint, but also how to connect different mediums. So I'm always so thankful when we may bring an idea that we are kicking around with one of our radio partners or television partners or digital partners, and you guys figure out a way to bring that to life on the out of home in out of home, that makes it truly 360 degree surround sound approach. And as competitive as it is, and the millions of messages that our consumers are seeing every minute, every hour, we need that 360 approach. We need that multiple touch point to reinforce the messages and make sure they do break through. So really appreciate the innovation, and no idea is ever a bad one. We're always looking for new and innovative ways to get our messages across, or even build on a potential message that we can round out through out of home.
So I'd like to ask a question about your customers and the customer relationship, how often your customers come in and what you're looking to do in creating a relationship with customers, and what has changed as far as routines and the disruption of routines. Can you give us some insight on that?
I think one of the things that's very is unique to Dunkin', specifically in the quick service restaurant space, is obviously we're a morning driven brand. We're a breakfast driven brand, more so than our competition. And that's a routine. And what's interesting when I think about the short term right now is, that routine has been disrupted. So we're going to need media channels we need that routine built back in. We need people, once they're commuting, the normal sort of early morning routines, to have Dunkin' be a part of their morning again. And all our media channels are going to help with that. Out of home is critically important for us to be able to message to them, and then also understand the incrementality. Are we seeing that routine over time? And that's going to be important to measure. The second piece that's a real great opportunity for us right now is, we are seeing new routines develop, and we're seeing later morning routines develop. And again, out of home can help us with that, because we can start to see, and we talked about in the case where we have digital out of home, if we change our messaging to a snack product or something that might be different in the late morning, early afternoon, that routine might stay for a while. And that's a great new business opportunity for us. So we want to make sure that we leverage that. The key is we have to be able to measure back to people on a device level when they're exposed to media channels. Did that drive what helped us drive that trip? We don't want to guess anymore. We don't want to have sort of blanket statements about, well, when we did this, people came in. I don't think we live in that world anymore. We're going to live in a world now of measuring, are we getting the fair share of the routine we had? And what's our great opportunity to leverage new routine? And being able to understand exposure, capture that, capture them coming into the restaurant, knowing what they've been exposed to is going to be critical to us balancing both of those needs. Reestablish routine, take advantage of new routine.
But I would also add that in the routine structure that Keith talked about, I think that there's routine inside the house or inside work or wherever you are, and outside the home, where out of home really plays that critical channel, because you'll see the trends that may change of, you know, people are no longer watching early morning news, but rather listening to the news on their smart device. But then you build that relationship with your you know, the out of home channel, to Keith's point about that routine and how it changes, and how those understanding of those migration patterns and those routines that change when you're outside of the home. So it's really just about that relationship that's being built with the out of home space. I also do think about a lot of the work that Dunkin's done, especially when you think about New England and feeling about hometown pride, and, you know, having a story that's told within the out of home channel, not just to sell a product, but to feel as part of the community, which happens in a lot of the markets. It's just prevalent in my head because Keith is in Boston. But it's that relationship that's built, and how that routine changes.
You know, the one thing that I think we're all in a that has come to a screeching halt was our routine for the last, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, right, depending upon the market, and that we're all looking forward to getting back to a routine. I think we all have a new appreciation for routine, you know, that we didn't that maybe we didn't even consider prior to COVID-19.
I would agree that the new routines also that Keith, you kind of alluded to. I mean, I had my old routines going into this, but now in the last 6-8 weeks, some of the things that now have started to become new routines for myself, and I'm sure you're seeing in your own business, that might help you guys hold on to something that hadn't occurred to you prior to kind of the COVID crisis. So I loved hearing that. And it, again, as we started out the whole conversation, it's all based on consumer behavior, and that then lends itself to the channels you use, you know, to advertise and message. So that's.
Kristi, you've spent, you know, so much of your career in the QSR space, you know, right out of college, and, you know, into the point you're now with, you know, the number of years you've been with Dunkin. What is in the category the relationship that the brand looks to have with consumers, the consistency of that?
Yeah, it's I mean, we are a high traffic, low ticket business, relatively speaking, and it is about frequency. It's about the transaction and making sure that we're getting an extra visit from our current guest and getting an increment, or getting a new customer as well. And obviously at Dunkin, we were primarily a morning business, but with the expansion of our beverage platform, we've seen our business grow across the day. And that is obviously something that we'll continue to work toward, is growing the total day. And again, I can't say it enough how much the digital out of home gives us that flexibility we need across the day. And that is going to be critical. And that, you know, that's something that we will, again, when you think about that, you know, how the different mediums complement each other, you're seeing that surround sound approach, and how you were hitting that message in several different ways is going to be key, because it's not going to be a one and done. It's an ever evolving thing. But coming out of this, as Keith and Liam have said, everyone at some point will get back to that morning ritual, and that is a day part that is highly competitive, and everybody wants a piece of that, as well as the coffee business. So there's going to be a lot of flexing that needs to be done as we figure out the right messaging, the right traffic driving value message to protect and grow that area as well.
In talking about routine disruption, I wanted to add a point. Routine disruption isn't specific to Dunkin and what you do during the day. Routine disruption that we are going to see, we're seeing right now as people shelter in place and our world in the US here has changed so dramatically. Some of those changes aren't going to keep, but others will keep and possibly accelerate. One of the things I find really interesting is we've been dealing with a world where people's cars and their in-dash entertainment system is far more powerful than it ever was before. And that puts a strain in some cases on advertisers' ability to message through the car like they used to. And we have to now think about how are we going to deal with that. We are such a high frequency visit, low ticket, high frequency, like Kristi said, that's where out of home to us could play an even more important role as helping us drive those incremental visits as other opportunities that we had grown accustomed to may shift.
Well, Kim, how about sharing a few thoughts? And you sat through this with these, this great team of media people and QSR folks that have so much experience. And just curious as to sort of any wrap-up ideas, thoughts that you might have that you might share with us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this has been fascinating. I have to thank each and every one of you for your time and your thoughts and for sharing with our amazing industry. Selfishly super excited to hear the value of data and how our channel's massive investments in technology and data solutions and campaign effectiveness work is making a difference. Both Liam in the way that you're planning and buying, and then Dunkin in the way that you're measuring KPIs and the impact on your brand. I'm selfishly a huge fan of Dunkin as a brand, so Kristi, your background's making me want to run out right now. Anyway, I hope everybody really enjoyed all of this content. Gale, Jill, thank you for pulling this together for us. Again, really sad we couldn't all do this in person, but I think that this was a really, really great investment of time and expertise, and I hope everyone out there who's watching really enjoyed participating in it with us. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks again. This has been great. Hopefully we'll be in Phoenix next year.
Sounds good.
So Kristi, can you share some insights and thoughts that you might have as to how we as an industry can better serve the needs of Dunkin?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say keep the great innovative ideas, all the creativity, and then of course the data. All those great insights that you guys share with us on a regular basis are key to how we build our media plans and how we figure out how to reach the consumer in new, innovative ways. So all about innovation for sure. And just really appreciate the continued partnership. We've got a great future ahead and really look forward to all the new ways to market together in the future.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you for everybody today that was on this panel. We appreciate the time that you've given to us and to our industry. And for everyone listening in on the call today, just go to Dunkin, buy some coffee, make it part of your routine, and let's continue to give the great service and continue to be a great partner to Dunkin and to the listeners. Thanks so much.